certified by Weather Rate.
Good evening, folks. I'm meteorologist Ross Meemaw here. I want to give you a quick update on the tropics in case you have missed it. Our team here at First Coast News and the National Hurricane Center are watching an area for potential tropical development. It's still a low chance, only a 20% chance of formation over the next 7 days, a 0% chance over the next 48 hours. But nonetheless, it is an area that could be conducive to some level of tropical development here by the end of the week and into the holiday weekend. So a cold front is going to be dropping in from our north on Wednesday. That will eventually stall out either right over the First Coast in the I-10 corridor or slightly further south down towards I-4 in central Florida. But nonetheless, this is going to act as a convergence zone for a potential low pressure system to begin to develop. We'll have more updates on this over the coming days on First Coast News and on First Coast News Plus.
Stay with the First Coast's most accurate weather team. Stay safe and informed. Download the First Coast News app now. First Coast News, on your side.
Good evening, folks. Welcome in. I'm meteorologist Ross Meemaw here with our 9 p.m. update on the potential for some tropical development here over the next couple of days, and especially by the end of the week and as we head towards the 4th of July and your holiday weekend. But for the time being, especially here earlier this afternoon and this evening, just a lot of very heavy rainfall. We had some stronger thunderstorms that were dumping anywhere from 1 to 2 inches of rain locally in some spots, but thankfully that is now generally pushed all off to the west. You can see that there with some of the cloud tops and the lightning, and then you can see this just kind of circulation, this swirl off to our east. This is an upper level low pressure system, something we've monitored and talked about here over the last several days. This is eventually going to move off to the northeast. Won't be of any concern to us here locally, but it's a pretty cool feature on the water vapor satellite imagery here tonight at least. So this is running back over about the last 3 hours with regards to the radar. You can see some pretty strong storms were up across the Okefenokee, so Pierce and Ware County, but now just some lingering showers for many of those folks across inland southeast Georgia. For us here closer to the Jacksonville area and pretty much everyone up and down I-95. Maybe just 1 or 2 isolated showers moving offshore there down in St. Johns County, but generally speaking, it is going to be a dry evening for the vast majority of us here now that the rain and storms have moved off to the west and have begun to dissipate. But I did say there was a decent amount of rain that did fall. You can kind of see some of the streaks from that. So pretty much from St. Augustine right up Route 1 through the Durbin area, Bay Meadows on the south side, and then straight into downtown Jacksonville, where we actually did have a flash flood warning for about 45 minutes to an hour or so, and then continuing up into far northeast Florida, Nassau County and southeastern Georgia. Some locations, as I had said, picked up anywhere from about 1 to 2 inches. Around most of the metro, though, here are some of the totals. So Craig Airport, just over an inch. Downtown Jacksonville measured, I believe, at Everbank, just over a ½ inch of rain there. Jacksonville Airport really didn't pick up all that much. I think now at this point, it might be 0.17 or 0.18 inches. Ortega, actually a pretty hot spot there. We got over 1 3/4 inches or nearly 1 3/4 inches. St. Augustine just under a ½ inch. So kind of depending on where you happen to live or where you were at, kind of dictated how much rain you actually saw today, if any at all. But you have a very good chance to see more rainfall over the coming days. Tomorrow might actually be the driest day of the week. We're talking about some isolated to scattered thunderstorms, primarily up and down I-95 tomorrow afternoon and evening. But by Wednesday and then continuing through the end of the week, and especially for your 4th of July, yeah, we could see a pretty decent amount of rainfall. Some scattered, if not numerous, even widespread rain and thunderstorms could be on the way, could be impacting any sort of 4th of July plans that you might have either on Friday night to watch the fireworks displays or for this coming weekend, making it a beach day, a boat day, just having a party with your friends and family out back in your backyard or your back porch, patio, whatever it may be. You're going to want to know if the storms and the rain are going to impact you. We'll get into it here in just a little bit. Let's start you off, though, with tomorrow. Again, isolated to scattered storms primarily after 2 o'clock for most of us along our coastal area. So let's show you what the models are trying to depict. Overall, still have fairly light southwesterly flow. So that's going to pull that Gulf Coast sea breeze a little bit further towards the eastern seaboard here. East Coast sea breeze pretty much collides with it right around the Jacksonville metro and that I-95 corridor. So after 2 o'clock, we'll watch for some isolated scattered thunderstorms to develop there, and then they will eventually begin to dissipate and move offshore after sunset tomorrow night. Maybe a few lingering showers, but generally speaking, the worst of the thunderstorm activity will end post-sunset tomorrow night. As we head then into the back half of this coming week, that's where we're issuing those weather impact alerts. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, weather impact alert in effect for the entirety of the day, but we really will hone in on that like 2 to 8 p.m. window. That's where your best chance to see some of the stronger thunderstorms will be. Impacts, obviously going to be numerous thunderstorms, potentially some heavy rainfall, which could lead to some localized flooding. We've already had some flooding now 2 straight days, both of which were in San Marco. Last night we had it. We had some, pictures and videos of people who were trying to scoop water out of their car with buckets. And they say, their cars can often fill up when it rains very heavy like that. I know, personally for myself, my girlfriend works at Baptist Health Hospital right near San Marco. She had to walk through ankle-deep water to get to her car today. She was a little concerned. So I know a lot of folks who live in some of those flood-prone areas and those low-lying areas, are concerned when the flooding does occur. Unfortunately, as we have the potential to see more, rainfall or more inches of rain on the way this week, that's going to continue to be a threat here, along with, of course, lightning in any of those thunderstorms and some gusty winds anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour in some of the stronger storms that do happen to develop. So as we head to the end of the week, this is the area that we're watching. National Hurricane Center and ourselves here at First Coast News. It is a low chance of formation, only a 20% chance over the next 7 days, particularly by Friday and even into the weekend. That's really the time frame that we could maybe see something spin up out of here. So this includes the eastern Gulf, so just off the coast in Tampa, the Orlando and I-4 corridor, up into northeast Florida, and then extending east and northeastward from there out over the Gulf Stream to our east and northeast. So this is all pretty much going to be coming from a cold front that's dropping in from our north on a Wednesday. Ahead of that, we're still going to have fairly strong westerly or southwesterly flow, so that's going to continue to pump in the heat and the moisture at the surface, giving just rise to some, extra thunderstorm and rain activity through the afternoon. And then you have more moisture coming in from the north, so it's really just compressing it all together. We're really expecting Wednesday to be a bit of a hot mess here with regards to rain and thunderstorms through the afternoon and into the evening hours. Then, as you transition from Wednesday into Thursday and eventually Friday, that cold front pretty much stalls out. Now, it could either be right over I-10 or it could be a little bit further southward down towards the I-4 corridor in central Florida. Wherever it is, it's going to act as almost a convergence zone. And you can kind of picture it here with some of the winds. So winds on the southern end of it are out of the south and southeast. Winds on the northern part are much more, or I shouldn't say out of the southeast, out of the south and southwest. Northern part is much more out of the northeast. So it almost showing that counterclockwise cyclonic circulation, a little bit of a kink in the stationary boundary there. So this is just what one model was trying to depict, the potential for a surface low pressure system to begin to develop either right over Florida or perhaps just offshore here by really the end of Friday and especially as we head into the weekend. But still, a very low chance of actual tropical development. So more than likely, this is really just going to be a pretty heavy rainmaker for a lot of folks, specifically over towards the Gulf Coast, the Swanee Valley, I-75 corridor, and then down towards Cedar Key and eventually the Tampa Bay area. Folks could pick up anywhere from 2 to 4 inches, locally higher amounts of 4 to even 6 inches in some of those localized locations. So this is just model data trying to show you where some of the heavier stuff could be. I do believe, though, that southeast Georgia could get some drier air advected in by the 4th of July on Friday and into the weekend. It's not a guarantee, but I do think there's a decent shot of that occurring, which would lessen your overall rain chances and coverage for Friday and the weekend, specifically for southeast Georgia. But we'll have to see if that comes to fruition or not. We'll kind of break down the ingredients here in a second. But the metro itself in the Jacksonville area, we're likely going to see much closer to about 1 to 2 inches averaged out over the whole location or the whole area. So, of course, in a summertime thunderstorm, yeah, you can get 1 to 2 inches of rain, just like that. Not that hard, but you average it out over the entire area of the Jacksonville, metro, Nassau County, Duval, Northern St. John's. You average it over the next couple of days, 1 to 3 inches equaled out across the whole kind of plain there. So either way you see it, especially by Wednesday through the end of the week, our rainfall chance is going to increase. Excessive rain risk, marginal for Wednesday. By Thursday and Friday, we're still going to be in the marginal here, but down along the Gulf Coast, especially for the Tampa area, those folks are going to be in a slight risk for excessive rainfall for their Thursday and Friday. So let's kind of show you what we're talking about here, what we could see. Right here's where the cold front is. So to the north of there, so much drier, slightly cooler air working its way in. Tons of low, mid, and upper level moisture. So we are locked in to some very moist tropical-like air here through Wednesday and then into the weekend. Now take note where the dry air ends up going a little bit further to the west. And as we played out here from Friday through the end of the weekend, you notice a little bit of that swirl, that counterclockwise rotation, actually showing any sort of low pressure that tries to develop could retrograde back to the west, right along the northern Gulf Coast. If that is the case, if this is the solution that actually happens, this would pretty much keep us locked into some pretty steady rain and thunderstorm chances through your 4th of July and pretty much the entire holiday weekend. Now, in contrast to that, here's another way, kind of depicting it in a different format. Right here's the cold front beginning to stall out there Thursday into Friday morning. This is the European model, actually. And then you'll take note, it really takes that kind of area of circulation and possible swirl much further off to our east, almost due east of the first coast in Jacksonville. So in this scenario, one, it would take the worst of the energy, or the majority of the energy, a little bit further away, and slightly drier air would be advected in across southeast Georgia. So in this scenario, if the storm tracks further east of us, drier air means less rain chances, not only for southeast Georgia, but potentially for northeast Florida by the time the end of the weekend rolls around. So kind of two separate cases that could occur here. We've also talked about the Saharan dust. Could it have any impact on inhibiting the storm? Probably not. Cold front pretty much keeps any dust and drier air associated with that dust pinned down across South Florida and the Florida Keys. So we're really not anticipating that to impact things all that much. But one other thing to keep in mind, if we do happen to get that low pressure system to develop over central Florida or just to the east, we could get locked into a pretty steady northeast wind. Now, it's probably not going to be all that strong, wind gusts upwards of 25 to 30 miles per hour. But if we get this on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 straight days of it, the St. Johns River could begin to back up a little bit, could bring those river levels up just a hair, and then you factor in some freshwater rainfall on top of that, 1 to nearly 2, if not even 3 inches of rain. Some localized flooding along the intercoastals and the St. Johns River Basin going to continue to be a cause for concern and something to watch for here as we head into the start of the holiday weekend. So let's all kind of just wrap it up, tie a bow on it here for you. Tomorrow, yes, still a 60% coverage of some isolated to scattered showers and thunderstorms, but more than likely will be the driest day that we have here for the rest of the week. Wednesday, widespread rain and storms as that front drops in from the north. We're expecting a lot of rainfall up and down I-95. So if you got afternoon or evening plans outside on Wednesday, just might want to rethink those, to be honest. We're probably going to see a decent amount of rain and storms there. Thursday, Friday, we'll continue to see some rain and thunderstorm activity. That's when that potential tropical disturbance could begin to develop there right around the 4th of July. So are we able to lock in just yet whether those fireworks are going to be able to go off on time or exactly where you're planning on watching them at? No, we can't give you those specifics just yet. It's just Monday. By perhaps this time tomorrow night, and especially by Wednesday, we'll have a much better idea of what to expect and anticipate by the end of the week. But at least during the early evening hours, thunderstorms still very, very likely there on Friday. And then as we head into the weekend, we're really just watching that northeast breeze. Do we still have thunderstorm chances around? Yes. But if the storm, if it develops, does it track further off to the east? If it does, these rain and storm chances might come down a little bit. If it actually retrogrades and moves back to the west,